It's time to change my suspension and make my 3 Series handle like a track car. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? I promised this at the end of last week's video, and here we are this week, going to be installing some coilovers onto my 3 Series, and like I said, hopefully making it handle just like a track car. Now, there is actually good reason as to why I'm doing this. I'm not just doing it because coilovers. I'm actually doing this because the suspension on my car, and more specifically my shock absorbers, are absolutely shot. They are so completely dead. They do no absorption, and it's so uncomfortable to drive this car. And I know you might be saying, well, why don't you just get new shock absorbers? What is the fun in that, in all honesty? You might as well just go all out and get some pretty cool suspension. It's exactly what I've done. So I don't want to spend too much time waffling this week. I just want to get these on the car because I'm so excited for how this is going to handle. Hopefully loads better than what it does at the moment. Before I do that, I'm going to quickly go on a drive and show you what it is like before, because it is so horrible. Going over bumps, it is just horrendous. So let's get in the car, quickly go on a drive. That doesn't sound good. Oh my God. So I just want to take you guys on this drive really quick, just to show you kind of what it's like to drive the car at the moment. It is really unsettled. The suspension's not great. It's very, very firm. There is just no shock absorption at all. It's awful. So the way I'm going to go now, I'm not actually going to take you on a bumpy road on purpose. I'm actually popping to Holford's, and this is the quickest way to Holford's. Just listen to the car down here. So uncomfortable. Oh Christ, there was one. And again. It's just so uncomfortable. You feel all the shock through your body, and the car takes none of it. And we've arrived at Holford's. I need to go get some copper grease real quick, so we'll be back in just a second. And there we go. That is my trip to Holford's now done. We've picked up some copper grease and something for next week's video, because I got something cool coming out next week, a new car on the channel, that is. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm not getting rid of this one, don't worry about that. I'm keeping this car. There's just going to be a second car along with this one, hopefully to just keep the content fresh, especially when things get more expensive now and having to wait for parts. A new car is definitely a good idea. Oh, that doesn't feel good. Jesus. So that is what it's like to drive this car. It's horribly painful, to be honest, but now we're back. Let's get to work. Let's get this brand new suspension on. Well, there you go. That's what it's like to drive my car. Pretty uncomfortable, as I keep saying. But here in this box are the brand new coilovers. We've gone for red and gold, green and gold look. And these look so freaking cool. We've got adjustable drop links as well. Obviously, we've got like adjustable threads there to adjust the height of the spring, so we can obviously, as I keep saying, adjust how the car sits. But in this box here is a little gift that I believe they send out with every single one of their sets. And I was right, in this box here is a coilover keychain. Look at how cool that is. Now seeing that gets me so excited. So let's get this car up in the air, let's get on jack stands and get these rear wheels off. I cannot wait to get this on the car. Let's go. There we go then, the 3 Series is now up in the air. The next thing we're going to need to do, I think, is clear out the boot. At the moment, I've got all my tools and bits and bobs in here, and the reason why is because we're going to need to access the top mount up here for the old shock absorber, so we can take it off and get that loose. But before we do that, I'm so glad I'm actually doing this job, because as you can see down there, it's quite difficult to pick up. There's literally a crack on the lower top mount down there for the shock absorber, and that'll obviously be one of the reasons as to why the car is driving and handling so poor at the moment. So let's clear all of this out in 3, 2, 1, labash. And there we go, the boot is now clear. We now need to take out all of this, so I think we're going to start off taking out the bottom mat here, and then the side panels should all come out because they're not really held in by anything. Like you can look along here, they're quite loose, and I think the top mount should be sat somewhere around here. I'm hoping so. We're just going to wing it and hope for the best. There we have it then, that is the boot stripped out. That was such an easy job. Anyone can do that pretty much. It was just clips, like 3 bolts, and that was it. Now, under these covers is where our top mounts will be sitting. So as you can see, there's that bolt just there, or this little Allen key or reverse Allen key here sticking out. If you want to do either one of them, doesn't really matter. That will remove the top mount from our shock absorber, which is obviously down here. So we're gonna do that next, and then we should be able to start working on the outside of the car. So what I've got here is a pass-through socket on a wrench, and what we're gonna do is hold the top up here, as we're gonna do down here, and then, there we go. So I've just taken these off, and oh, these are so past their use by date. They are in awful condition. They're even in two pieces. They just don't look good at all. I am so glad I'm going to be changing these, because I'm changing these as well as all the top mounts on the car and the bump stops. So eventually this car is going to be night and day difference to how it is right now. So now back onto the tasteful bit, don't fall over. So what we need to do now is, it's difficult to see. So there's that little bolt down there, and there's another one just there. On the outside, just under there it is. I believe that is a reverse female Torx. I think it's a 14E. We're gonna try and get that off, and the one on the other side, just over here. And that should be the shock absorber completely loose then. And we'll be able to drop the lower arm after that and take that out along with the spring. There we go then, that is now the shock absorber completely free. I might be able to pull this down and out the car, but I think I'm gonna lower this arm first to be able to do it, or otherwise it might just be a little bit too tight, and obviously we've got to lower that anyway to take the spring out. So to do that, we need to crack this nut here, and we've got to hold it from the bolt on the other side. That is such a tight bolt, and it's gonna be very difficult to get off, but we sprayed a bunch of WD-40 in there. Hopefully it will do the trick. We have finally got that arm off. That took far too long. The bolt was so seized in. We had to try heat, WD-40, we tried using, we tried all my breaker bars, we tried everything. And finally we got it off. We had to take this arm off as well, just to get the bolt out, as you can see. But oh, we've got it off. We could finally drop this, take the spring out, take the old shock absorber out, and finally put the new ones back in. Get in. So it's actually getting quite late now. It's so late actually that I've got some tea. Look at this, we've got a lovely noodle pot with some salt and pepper beef, sweet and sour chicken. Lovely combination, but everything is such a mess. Everything's so corroded together and it's taken forever. It took us so long to drop that arm off, but we've finally got the spring out and we've got the shock absorber out. This is the state of the old top mount. Look at that. That is absolutely shocking. This was the old bump stop and this was the old shock absorber. And there's a spring. I believe these are lowered and they still look in good condition, so I might be able to flog them off for a little bit of money back. But yeah, everything right now is an absolute mess. We've got some tea to scran, so we're gonna eat that. And then hopefully once we've done that, if it's light enough still, get this side back together. But that's just fingers crossed. But yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. All right, tea scran, that was absolutely delicious. We've now got this lower top mount to put back in. We're gonna put this in first, put on the 2 bolts, hold that on, and then we'll get the spring in afterwards and the shock absorber on last, and then hopefully get everything back together. But yeah, we'll start with that lower mount, we'll crack on. So the lower mount is now in, and what we need to do is set up this lot here that's gonna be going back on basically. So we've got the new shock here, the old one here, as you can see, we've got like a rusted end on there. It is awful. So this has already got the bump stop in, which is a brand new bump stop anyway. It's very small. I don't know about that, but it's gonna have to do for the moment. But there we go, that is obviously the new bump stop on. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is take the adjuster here for the spring. I'm going to want to line this in copper grease so that if we ever do come to obviously adjust it at some point, it will have copper grease on and it hopefully shouldn't seize. So we're going to do that now quickly. It's now a bit completely lined in copper grease. We're just going to thread the nut bit back on the bottom. And what I'm going to do is just thread it up until this bottom bit here is flush. So we're going to go for about there, I reckon. And the last thing we got is a brand new sort of top mount for the shock absorber that will sit obviously in the boot.
The next day.
So it is the next morning. It's a really bright and hot day today, but thank you to my dad and to my girlfriend, my dad especially, because I never shout him out and he always wants one. He's probably listening right now giggling, but we've managed to get this bottom arm back on, and we've also managed to get this arm, this side back on. It all looks really good in here now. Everything is together. We can now get the wheel back on, and we've also managed to put this side of the boot back together. So we're moving good this morning so far. There we go then, the wheel is back on, we're back together on that side. Next thing we're gonna do is time lapse doing this side. Hopefully it won't take as long. We've been drenching everything in some WD-40, so hopefully it should all be relatively loose. But the first thing I'm gonna do is take the shock absorber out and then the lower mount, and then drop that arm, take the spring out, and then put everything back in and back together. Hopefully this shouldn't take as long as last night. As it is all fresh up here in the brain, this shouldn't take too long, but we'll see what happens. Let's just crack on, get this done. So we're back together now on this side. As you can see, everything's back on, the wheel, all the shock absorber, and obviously the spring. But when we did this side, we realized that we put the shock absorber assembly together wrong, and that goes for this side too. So we're gonna have to take the wheel back off and just take the top mount of the shock absorber off so we can just bring it out and change everything around. I'll explain exactly what we've done wrong as soon as we get the wheel off. Okay, so with the wheel off, we've now also removed the top mount up here again on the inside of the boot. Reason being is the build up here with all like the bits that absorb, well, the bump stops and the rubbery bits, we did that completely wrong. So we need to just pull the shock absorber down and out and then put the right assembly on and put that back together, and then we should actually be done. Here's what we went wrong with. This build up is not meant to look like this. So we're gonna take this little metal bar out. You take the cover for the lower guide mount out, and basically this lower guide mount here, this is meant to go through like that. And then the bump stop shouldn't look like this. And in fact, we're not gonna use bump stops because this is tiny. Look at that bump stop, that is so small. But this is the bump stop we're gonna be using. It's quite a bit bigger. It might be too big, I'm not sure. As you can see, that's the size difference. Maybe we're meant to use this one because it came with this, but we are gonna use this one. So the first thing we're gonna do is put this cover on top, like that. And then the bump stop follows it on top. There we go. And then the next thing to go on is this like metal supporting plate. Sits on top like that for the bump stop. And then next is this lower guide support that goes on top, just like so. And then on top of that is this rubber sealing cover. And that is the build up for down here anyway. And then if we compress this, there we go. And then push that into position, that will go up. And it's almost in. Come on, you. Go in, there we go. And that is all in. And that's how we put this together properly. And now we need to just go put that top guide support on, do that up, and then put the wheel back on. Hi guys, we're now putting the top mount on. What we do is we take the nuts and we do it up. And then when you get to a point where it gets too tight, take a spanner. And with the spanner, you do it up. But then you'll get to a point where it gets too tight again, and the actual piston on the shock absorber will want to turn as well. So this when you get the special tool. There we go, it's now wanting to turn. So what you do is you put the spanner on top. Then you take the special tool, you hold it with the special tool, and boom, you do it up, just like that. And that is how you do up a rear shock absorber on a BMW 3 Series E90. Bada bing, bada boom. So this now looking all nice and tight together. This does not want to go anywhere. Once we put the wheel on, there's some load under the car. This will sit just like that. So let's get the wheel back on. We should be able to lower this back down finally. Also, before we put these wheels back on, what do you guys think? Should we stick with these massive 19-inch rims, or do we go with something else? I'm not too sure myself, in all honesty. I'm not sure if I like the spoke design or if we want a different sort of design. So yeah, let me know down below whether we should stick with these wheels or go for something else. And there we have it. That is now both of the rears changed over. So hopefully now the rear of the car will handle a little bit better and be a little bit smoother over bumps, but we'll see. All those bump stops and mounts and everything were in such bad condition. I'm so glad we changed it all. But now to wrap all this up, we just got to put the boot back together and then we'll be all done. The boot is now back together. Next thing we need to do is jack up the rear differential again, take the jack stands out, bring the car down, and fingers crossed, it's all right. There we go then, the car's back down under its own weight, and to be fair, the fitment before, you know, the suspension settled, it looks all right, but I'm a little bit nervous it's gonna come a bit too low, but we'll see. But we're gonna go on a test drive now. We're gonna go to Whole Foods, because I broke one of my tools, get that exchange in and get something to eat. We'll see how it drives and then see what it's like after. So I'm gonna save the first drive for when we've actually got the full suspension on the car, but for now I can tell you it feels a lot better and a lot different. And the fitment of the rear looks so nice now as well. I think we've got that spot on with how we adjusted the adjuster obviously on top of the spring. It looks phenomenal. But I'm gonna leave that there this week. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. Next week I've got another car on the channel, not this 3 Series, there's another one. You should stick around to see that by hitting that subscribe button down below or hitting the join button to become a member. It's only £2 a month. There's a load of extra things coming along for my members. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Like I said, catch you next week on Sunday. Have a fantastic week and I'll see you then. Peace out.